You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Challenge us at Wexford Insurances 0818 31 30
Welcome
30.
back. I'm now joined in studio by Peadar Rice of Smallchanges.ie. Peadar, begin by giving us an insight into your own career to date, please.
Yeah, well, originally from Meath. After school, I went into the construction industry. I spent most of my career working in that field in different guises in purchasing, stock control, project management. And then in 2008, something rather drastic happened. At the time, we were in the middle, or we were in an incredibly busy phase. There were huge amounts of projects going on. And towards the end of 2008, I was diagnosed with testicular cancer.
And what did you do to overcome the adversity that it brought on you?
I got on with things. I suppose with a lot of illnesses and a lot of sicknesses, one of the key things, or one of the most important things with regard recuperation and getting over things, is to be positive. I had received a big shock. It was something I never expected. I would be told. I knew that an operation was going to follow, radiotherapy was going to follow, there was going to be a period when I was going to be unwell. So I suppose I penciled off a period and said, okay, for this, however many months, I'm not going to feel well, or I'm not going to be at my best, but I'm going to get through it. And when I get through it, I'll be at the other end and I'll continue onwards. So that, I suppose, I was fortunate in that I could give myself a goal to aim for. I knew I was going to get back into work. I had also other plans, obviously, outside of work, my personal life, which I pushed towards, or I used as goals,
How did the idea come about for Smallchanges.ie?
It all came about, I suppose, back when I was diagnosed first off in 2008, because the doctors couldn't tell me that there was a particular reason why I got cancer. It wasn't, the doctors didn't say, oh, you got cancer because you smoked, or because you drank, or because you did this or didn't do that. There was no definitive reason. So I began looking at doing my own research, and I began to find a lot of information, a lot of literature that suggested that the predominance of chemicals that we use on a daily basis, not only at home but outside the home, that there was a lot of studies which showed that these chemicals were having a huge impact on people's lives, not only on people's lives but on the environment. So I took the decision that I was going to use, or I was going to minimise my exposure as much as I could to these chemicals. And the way I was going to do that was I was going to use eco-friendly products at home. It was at that point that I found out that they were hard to source. I was shocked in a lot of instances as to how expensive they were. But I was adamant that I was going to stick with this. I was going to go down that route. So I spent a lot of time sourcing these products, because I could go into a shop, I would find the products and go, great. And then the following month I would go back in to buy them again, and they disappeared from the shelves. So the idea of Small Changes began to form. I began to look at how I could make these products easier for people to access and at a more affordable and reasonable price. So I suppose from 2008 onwards, Small Changes was always there in the back of my mind.
So you made the decision that you were going to start a business, Smallchanges.ie, with a view to providing more accessible products of an eco-friendly nature to consumers across the country. What was the first step you took in realising that ambition?
There was a huge amount of market research, because I knew myself, or I appreciated the products. I thought they were a good idea, but just because I thought it was a good idea didn't necessarily mean that it was. So there was a lot of time spent on market research, identifying the particular demographic that I thought Small Changes should target. That was done in a number of ways. There were quite a lot of online surveys. There was quite a lot of market stalls where we would have sold certain products or certain sections of the product ranges we wanted. From that, we got feedback from potential customers, but most importantly, and particularly on the market stalls, we got face-to-face feedback from customers, which I found hugely beneficial, because there were quite a lot of products which I thought were going to sell well, and I felt were going to be ones that we should stock. Turns out there was very little appetite for them, or very little need for them. So that helped hugely.
Okay. Apart from identifying a product market fit for the range of products itself, what other valuable feedback did you receive from that face-to-face encounter?
The fact that there was a desire for these products, the fact that there was an opening in the market, the fact that people wanted to use these products and couldn't access them. So on a number of levels, there was huge validation for the idea of small changes that came about through the market research that we conducted, and it was massively important,
Peadar, it certainly takes a lot of courage for somebody to set about starting their own business, especially in the times we're in, but not only just in the times we're in, but at any stage. Were any of the government or state agencies of any support to you across the county?
Yeah, I was very fortunate in that I got great help from Wexford Local Development. The help that I got from a particular officer was phenomenal. There were certain ideas that I went in with that I was adamant were going to work. She pointed me in the right direction. She gave me advice and huge assistance. And I think the business wouldn't have moved in the direction it has moved in without the assistance that I got.
Have you received any financial supports from Wexford Local Development?
Not directly, but Wexford Local Development, they facilitate, or rather they helped me with the back to work allowance, which is for 2 years you're entitled to your social welfare benefits. In year 1 you're entitled to 100% of them, and in year 2 you're entitled to 75%. And I suppose that support is vital, when you're starting up your own business. If you have a set income, however small it is, if that's coming in every week, it's a massive help. They then directed me to Wexford County Enterprise Board, and through the Enterprise Board I received a grant for which helped me establish the website. And again, that was a huge help. When you're starting up your own business, any help that you can get, not only financially but in advice, mentoring is huge.
Okay, so the Enterprise Board provided with some funding to get the website up and running. It's an online shop to sell energy efficient and eco-friendly products. What was the next step once you had the site up and running?
Yeah, so the site went live in September of last year, and once the site went live, we spent, and still are, we spent a lot of time on social media. As a start-up business, we didn't have a huge amount of money to spend on marketing and advertising, so we found, and again still find, Facebook, Twitter, invaluable tools. And I think if I can give a bit of advice to somebody who's either contemplating or has just started up their business, really look at what Facebook and what Twitter and what other social media tools can give you. You can operate on a shoestring, and at times you can be as effective using Facebook and Twitter as you might be if you were to spend on advertising in the traditional forms. And then in December something new happened. It was actually quite by accident. At the time I was looking for office space, because up until then I'd been working out of home. It had got to the stage where the entire, the front bedrooms were just covered in stock, had to get out. So I was looking for office space. I was very fortunate in that I came across my landlord in Gorey, Pat Roach, who showed me some office space which actually had a retail unit attached to it. We worked out a fantastic deal. He really appreciates what we're trying to do, what Small Changes is about. And from that, our first retail store opened. So that opened in Gorey a week before Christmas. And that's going really well.
How considerate are people of the environment out there today?
There is a huge awareness of what impacts we as humans, unfortunately, have had on the environment. There's a huge awareness of the consequences of this, and there's a huge appetite to change, so we can pass on what we've inherited to our children, to our grandchildren, in a better shape. There's a huge amount of talk about economic recovery, which is obviously vitally important. But also, there has to be recognition of the recovery that we have to make in terms of the environment, because without that, it doesn't matter what sort of financial recovery we make, because we have to recover not only financially but also on a societal basis, and as well as on an environmental basis.
There's no doubting, Peadar, that there is a movement going on out there in the background that are moving to this eco-friendly type environment. We can see that by driving into a supermarket car park today and seeing our recycling centres full, our clothing banks full, our glass bottle banks full. People are embracing this, but is it a minority that are embracing it?
No. Like, Ireland has one of the highest rates of recycling in Europe, in the EU.
Has that anything to do with the fact that refuse collection has become so expensive?
Yeah, quite possibly, but you have to, you have to bear in mind that it takes effort, to sort through your bins, or to sort through your rubbish and put it in the appropriate bins. It takes effort to load up your car and drive to your nearest recycling centre or to your nearest supermarket car park to dispose of your bins. If it was primarily down to the fact that if it just came down to money, we wouldn't be seeing the success rates that we are. If it was a case that the only reason why people are recycling is because, the cost of disposing of rubbish is so expensive, I think what you'd be seeing is, rather than people driving to supermarkets to dispose of their bottles or to the bring banks, you just see people with, and unfortunately it does happen, but you would see a lot more people just throwing rubbish into the ditch.
Yeah, that's a valid point. So the business is up and running at 6 months now at this stage, 6 months online and 4 months from a retail perspective in Gorey. The business is going quite well. What are your plans for the future? What does the next 12 months look like?
Yeah, we've got some exciting plans for the future. Given the success that we've seen now in Gorey with our retail shop, our plan will be to develop that. We would also look to open another retail store in another part of the country. We're looking to constantly develop our online site. We're currently just doing a little bit of maintenance and redesign on that, and we're also looking at developing our own products with the view to not only having them on sale here in Ireland in the domestic market, but also exporting them to the UK, mainland Europe, and perhaps beyond.
Well, Peadar, it's a very inspirational story, and I'd like to take this opportunity to wish you every success with developing Smallchanges.ie. Here at Business Matters, we want to hear your thoughts on the programme. You can contact the team here by emailing businessmatters@southeastradio.ie. For more information on today's show, you can follow me on Twitter at Karl Fitzpatrick or visit karlfitzpatrick.ie. We're almost at closing time here at Business Matters, but before we go, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my production team, my guests for their contribution, and especially you for listening. Join me again next Saturday morning when I'll be speaking to more of the business leaders that you want to know more about. But in the meantime, have a great week.
You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Think Wexford Insurances for your business insurance.